So in today's video, we're going to cover off the differences between a combi boiler and a boiler that has a separate tank. And we're also going to look at where each of these boilers would be suitable for your home and how much they cost to replace. Just before we head into this video, if you are in the market for a new boiler, then head over to heatable.co.uk where you'll be able to get a fixed price and have it installed in as little as 24 hours. Okay, so the boilers we've got behind us today are a Worcester Bosch 4000 combi boiler, and we've also got a Worcester Bosch RI regular boiler. Now, the difference between the two are essentially that one of them does everything in one unit, the combi, and the other boiler requires several other components to be able to work. Okay, the first thing we need to look at is how do you identify which type of system you currently have. So a big giveaway for a boiler with a tank is going to be the tank. If you've got a combi boiler, you won't have a separate tank that heats your water. There's also a couple of other things to watch out for. So if you've got a boiler with a tank, you'll also usually have a little tank in the loft, and you'd also have a separate pump maybe in the airing cupboard that pumps the water around the system. On a combi boiler, all those components are all in one unit. That's why it's called a combi boiler, combination, hot water and heating. With the combi boiler, there's a few more pipes that go into them as opposed to a regular boiler. So we can cover those off now. You've got the flow and return all the way to Mars, and then you just waffle in. All right? Got it? Got it? Okay, so now we've identified what boiler you have, you can now choose on Heatable what boiler you would like. So if you've already got a combi boiler, we'd always recommend sticking with that unless you've decided to add another bathroom to your property. If you've got a boiler with a separate tank and you're thinking about having a combi boiler, then here's some things that you should know. So the benefits of a combi boiler like this Worcester Bosch 4000 here are they only produce hot water on demand. So previously, if you had a separate tank, you would have been storing water which you may or may not use, and you might want that space back where your airing cupboard is. On a combi boiler, as soon as you turn a hot tap on, the boiler instantly kicks in and it boils that water rapidly, supplying the outlet that you're calling the water from. With a boiler with a tank, that water is already there and it's already hot. So generally what you'll find is water from a tank comes through a little bit quicker. Water from a combi, it might take 10 or 15 seconds before it starts to come through. The other benefit of a combi boiler is that there's no requirement for external components. So if you had a boiler with a tank and you just changed the boiler, all the other components in the system are also technically at risk and not under warranty. You'd have a warranty on the boiler, but you wouldn't have a warranty on stuff like your pump, your 3-port valve, your header tank, or any external controllers. And obviously with a combi boiler, all the components are in one unit and under one warranty. So that's a big advantage where combi boilers win. Now, if you have got a property with multiple bathrooms, you can still have a combi boiler, but you just need to be aware of a few things. One of them is you're unlikely to be able to use a combi boiler with multiple outlets at once, i.e. if you've got 2 showers in your property and both of them are turned on at the same time, as the boiler just heats the water that goes in, that hot water is going to get separated between the 2 showers. You can combat this by installing a bigger sized combi boiler. So something like this Worcester Bosch 4000 here will come in a maximum output of 30 kilowatts, and this will deliver about 12.5 litres of hot water a minute, which is enough to run any shower on its own. If you had 2 showers and you had the cold water supply to be able to supply the boiler, then you could go for maybe the 8000 model in a 40 kilowatt where you'll get around 15 litres of hot water a minute, which should be enough to run 2 showers. Some negatives just to consider if you are moving from a boiler with a tank to a combi are going to be, first of all, space. Your regular boiler, as you can see here, is always going to be smaller than a combi boiler, and if it's in a cupboard in your kitchen, squeezing a combi boiler in there could be quite challenging. There are compact models available though. The other negative is, unless you've got that really good cold water pressure, if you do have 2 showers or 2 baths, then a combi boiler is always going to struggle if both are on at the same time. Even if you go for a really high kilowatt model, if you've got low water pressure, it's still going to get divided by 2 showers, and it's still probably not going to be enough to have them both on at the same time. And the third consideration is cost. Obviously, if you're changing from a boiler with a tank to a combi, there's lots of components that need to come out of the system. They all need to be reconnected. Combi boilers have more pipes at the boiler because they do more things in one place. We need to get all those pipes to the boiler. It's quite a big job. It happens all the time, it's not a problem for our engineers, but it does cost more than simply taking your regular boiler off the wall and putting a new one on. However, most customers get these savings back from the efficiencies of having a combi. Okay, so we've covered the benefits and negatives of having a combi boiler. Now we can move on to our boiler with a tank. Obviously, this is a Worcester Bosch RI model. It's a regular boiler. Now, some of the benefits of keeping a system like this are these boilers are pretty simple. There's probably a third of the components in these compared to those in a combi. Therefore, there's a lot less chance it'll go wrong. The other benefit is they are small, they fit in cupboards and they stay out of the way, and they generally produce less noise than a combi. Another benefit of a regular boiler is it allows you to have a separate hot water tank. So if the boiler did break, your hot water tank usually has immersion, which means that in winter you will have hot water, although you might not have heating. If a combi boiler goes off, the whole thing goes off. Okay, some negatives then to having a regular boiler. So although the boiler itself is actually smaller in a combi and it will fit in a cupboard, you've also got to consider that you've got multiple other components dotted around your property. For example, you'll have a big old hot water tank in your airing cupboard, a cold water storage tank in your loft, you'll have a pump, multiple controllers and valves. The other consideration therefore as well is that all these other components are going to be at risk when you change the boiler. So your boiler will come with a new warranty and that'll be covered if it breaks down. We've already covered that they're pretty reliable. The challenge is the rest of the system. Most of these components now, especially newer components, are almost consumable items. They need changing sort of every 3 to 5 years, and we're talking about pumps and motorised valves here. If you do elect to keep your boiler, then we'd always recommend changing the pumps and the valves at the same time so your system has a clean bill of health. And the last consideration for a regular boiler is efficiency. Whilst the boiler itself will be the same A rating as a combi boiler, you've got to think about the rest of your system. If your tank is 25 years old, your pump's rubbish and your motorised valve is burnt out, then although the boiler is efficient, the rest of the system is not very efficient. You've also as well got to consider you're going to be heating and storing hot water, which you may or may not use. With a combi, you only do that on demand. Okay, so as a quick summary, which type of system should you stick with or change to? Well, this very much depends on the circumstances of the property. If you've got multiple bathrooms and you want to use them at the same time, it's unlikely that you're going to get away with that with a combi boiler. You're going to have to stick with a boiler with a tank. However, in most other applications, a combi boiler is usually the better option. You can get a broad range of power options, they're really reliable, they only do hot water and heating on demand, and also they're easy to work on and easy to maintain, and you've also got no other components at risk outside of the boiler. So how much does it cost to change a combi boiler and how much does it cost to change a regular boiler? Well, combi boilers are usually cheaper to buy because there are some economies of scale that come with the product. If you had an existing combi boiler and you wanted to fit something like this, a Worcester Bosch 4000 in your property, then you'd be looking to spend something around £1,800 to £2,000 depending on where you bought the product and had it installed. If you had a regular boiler, you're usually going to pay a little bit more. You'll probably see prices starting around £2,200. If you're changing from a regular boiler with a tank to a combi, then you should expect to pay somewhere between £2,500 and £3,500 depending on the product that you choose. So we hope this video has been useful in giving you some further information around the differences between having a boiler with a tank and having a combi boiler, and which one you should choose. If you do have any further questions, then you always feel free to contact us here at Heatable. If you are in the market for a new boiler, then head over to heatable.co.uk. We'll be able to get a fixed price for either of these systems and have them installed tomorrow with flexible payment options. A bit of riff in it, a bit of jam, a bit of peanut butter.